The crisp sound of shattered porcelain in the cafe made several nearby tables turn their heads simultaneously. On Chang Ye's white shirt, a deep brown coffee stain was rapidly spreading, emitting faint wisps of steam. "Oh, I'm so sorry." Ning Weiyu set down the empty cup, her red lips curling into a smile that held no trace of apology. "My hand slipped." Chang Ye's skin could clearly feel the scalding heat of the liquid seeping through the fabric, at least 75 degrees Celsius, the corner of his eye twitched slightly, yet he merely picked up a napkin with composure and began wiping his clothes. "It's fine, I was in your way." His voice was steady, as if professionally trained. "The temperature is just right, not too hot." Ning Weiyu narrowed her eyes. 3 years had passed, yet no matter how she tried to provoke him, this man's expression remained as if he were wearing a perfect mask. Today was her university graduation day, and it was time to end this boring game. "Do you know why I asked you out today?" Her slender fingers tapped on the table, her newly done crystal nails sparkling under the sunlight. Cheng Yi took out a paper bag with a luxury logo from beside his feet and pushed it toward her. "Hermes' new limited edition. You mentioned wanting it last month." Ning Weiyu sneered, not even glancing at the handbag countless girls dreamed of. "You think you're worthy of pursuing me? A poor student relying on scholarships, who's been trailing after my family for 3 years. Do you really think a few bags can win me over?" More eyes turned their way, and whispers began to ripple through the crowd. Cheng Ye's name was somewhat well known in the business school, the simp who was always at the beck and call of the heiress of the Ning group. Cheng Yi suddenly smiled. It wasn't his usual gentle, compliant smile, but one that sent a chill down Ning Weiyu's spine, a smile that seemed almost like a release. "In fact, Miss Ning," he said, pulling a document from his briefcase and laying it flat on the coffee-stained table, "our relationship has been, from start to finish, a business contract." Ning Weiyu frowned as she looked at the document. The bold, black characters of "Emotional Services Contract" jumped out at her. The client was the Ning Group, the contractor was Chang Yi, and the signing date was 3 years ago, the very day she had started university. "What kind of prank is this? Did your father not tell you?" Chang Yi's voice remained polite, yet carried a trace of aloofness she had never heard before. 3 years ago, President Ning hired me at an annual salary of 300,000 to serve as your emotional companion. My main responsibilities were to meet your need for attention from the opposite sex, while," he paused, "correcting your overly arrogant personality." Ning Weiyu's face instantly turned deathly pale. She abruptly grabbed the contract and flipped to the last page. Her father's flamboyant signature and the company's official seal were glaringly stamped there. "The contract period is 3 years, ending at 5 p.m. today." Chang Yi glanced at his wristwatch. "There are still 4 hours and 13 minutes left, but considering you just clearly expressed the desire to terminate the relationship, we can end it early." He took out another leather-bound notebook from his bag. "This records all your preferences, habits, and emotional patterns over the past 3 years. Coffee with 2 sugars, but the sugar-free label must face outward. Migraines on rainy days require painkillers prepared in advance. Emotional fluctuations around the 20th of each month due to your menstrual cycle. Everything is categorized by date." Ning Weiyu felt a wave of dizziness. Were all those thoughtful gestures she thought were born of affection actually just professional conduct? You all," her voice began to tremble, unsure whether it was from anger or some more complex emotion. Cheng Yi had already stood up, placing the notebook beside her hand with a precision that felt like completing the final task of a handover. "According to the supplementary clauses of the contract, I am obligated to inform you that the next 3 months are an emotional detachment period. It is recommended that you gradually adjust to life without dedicated care." He gave a slight bow, his posture respectful yet distant. "It has been my honor to serve you for 1,095 days, Miss Ning. Starting tonight, you will no longer receive my goodnight messages." His retreating figure was as straight and unwavering as a pine tree. Without a hint of hesitation, Ning Weiyu sat there in a daze, suddenly realizing this was the first time in 3 years that Chang Yi had left before her. By the time Ning Weiyu stood outside her father's study door, the contract in her hand was already crumpled and wrinkled. She didn't even knock, pushing the door open and walking straight in. Ning Ziyuan looked up from the pile of documents, his gaze flickering briefly behind his gold-rimmed glasses at the sight of the paper in his daughter's hand before settling back into calm composure. "Explain this." Ning Weiyu slammed the contract onto her father's mahogany desk, her voice seeming to squeeze out from between clenched teeth. "Mr." Ning leisurely removed his glasses and wiped the lenses with a velvet cloth. She was all too familiar with this gesture. Her father always did this before announcing an important decision. "I thought Cheng Yi would tell you when the contract ended." Ning Ziyuan sighed. "It seems he revealed the truth ahead of schedule, so it's true." Ning Weiyu's voice suddenly rose sharply. "You paid someone to be my admirer, emotional companion." Father Ning corrected. "It's a very professional occupation. quite popular in Japan. I went through a headhunting agency and found 12 candidates. Chang Yi was the most outstanding in every aspect. Ning Weiyu felt the world spin around her. She steadied herself against the edge of the table, her nails nearly digging into the solid wood. Why, do you remember your high school prom? Father Ning's voice suddenly turned cold. You scolded the boy who walked you home until he burst into tears on the spot, just because the roses he bought weren't the color you wanted. Ning Weiyu opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Of course she remembered. The way that nerdy boy had flushed red and fled in panic had made her laugh for a whole week. After that, I conducted an investigation, Mr. Ning took a document from the drawer. All 6 of your ex-boyfriends experienced varying degrees of anxiety symptoms after the breakup. The most severe was that kid from the Chen family, who spent half a year in a psychological clinic. That's them. Too fragile. Not good enough for you, Mr. Ning interrupted her. Xiaoyu, the problem isn't with them, it's with you. The way you treat your suitors is like disposable tableware. Ning Weiyu felt her cheeks flush. She wanted to argue back, but then she remembered how just last week she had thrown the milk tea Chang Yi had queued for 2 hours to buy into the trash bin in front of the whole class. Chang Yi holds a master's degree in psychology, specializing in the study of emotional dependency. Mr. Ning's tone softened. I asked him to help you build a healthy understanding of intimate relationships, while also, he carefully chose his words, letting you experience the feeling of being unconditionally cared for, hoping you would learn to cherish it. So you treated me as an experiment. Ning Weiyu's voice trembled. No, Mr. Ning looked directly into her eyes. I just wanted you to understand that no one in this world should be good to you, not Chang Yi, not me, and not even your mother, if she were still alive. These words pierced Ning Weiyu's heart like a knife. She was only 8 years old when her mother passed away, and since then, her father had filled every gap in her life with material things. He recorded everything about me, Ning Weiyu murmured, recalling that terrifyingly detailed notebook. That was a professional requirement. Ning's father put his glasses back on. Now that the contract has ended, what are your thoughts? Thoughts? Ning Weiyu's mind flashed through everything Chang Yi had done for her over the past 3 years, the late-night snacks at 3 in the morning, the umbrella that always appeared on time in the rain, the small wishes she casually mentioned always fulfilled the following week. All of this actually had a price tag. I feel disgusted. She turned and walked toward the door. By the way, her father's voice came from behind. Chang Yi is very popular at school. It's just because of you that he has been turning down all social invitations. Ning Weiyu slammed the door shut with a heavy thud. When Chang Yi pushed open the iron door of the rental apartment, his roommate Zhou Yi was sprawled on the sofa playing video games. Hey, released from prison, Zhou Yi teased without looking back. Didn't the princess keep you for a farewell dinner? Chang Yi smiled and tossed the keys onto the coffee table. This 2-bedroom apartment, less than 60 square meters, was his only refuge aside from the university. For the past 3 years, returning from Ning Weiyu's luxurious apartment had always felt like crossing from one world into another. For hours ahead of schedule, Chang Yi took a black notebook from the bookshelf, 3 times thicker than the one he had given Ning Weiyu. Zhou Yi finally paused his game and leaned over curiously. What's this? Your simp diary? More accurately, it's the complete record of Ning Weiyu's personality analysis. Chang Yi opened the notebook, which was densely filled with observation notes, some sections even adorned with sticky notes and photos. Material for my master's thesis. Zhou Yi whistled. Impressive, earning money while doing research on the side. So, is this young lady really the functional narcissistic personality you initially judged her to be? Chang Yi didn't answer immediately. He walked to the balcony, pulled out a lighter, and the blue flame shone brightly in the night. More complicated than I imagined. He lit a corner of the notebook. She actually knows how to care for others. It's just, the flames quickly devoured the paper, illuminating his sharply defined profile. Zhou Yi leaned against the doorframe, unusually refraining from cracking jokes. Just what? Just that she's too afraid of being rejected. So she rejects the whole world first. Chang Yi let go, and the burning notebook fell into the iron bucket, a classic defense mechanism. Zhou Yi raised an eyebrow. Sounds like someone might be a little reluctant to let go. Chang Yi watched the last page turn to ashes. It had a secretly taken photo of Ning Weiyu sleeping in the library. The sunlight was beautiful that day, and her makeup-free face looked surprisingly soft. Just professional integrity. He turned and went back inside. Starting tomorrow, I can finally take on that adolescent psychological counseling project. Celebrate. Zhou Yi pulled 2 cans of beer from the fridge. My treat. Chang Yi took the beer. The cold touch of the can reminded him of that scalding hot coffee today. The smug look in Ning Weiyu's eyes and her stunned expression when she saw him take out the contract formed a perfect contrast. He smiled and pulled the tab. To freedom. When Lin Yan came looking for her, Ning Weiyu was sitting in the center of the walk-in closet, surrounded by dozens of designer bags, All gifts from Cheng Yi over the past 3 years. I heard you spilled coffee on Cheng Yi. Lin Yan unceremoniously sat on a Hermes bag. Well done, you finally forced him to lay his cards on the table. Ning Weiyu looked up sharply. You knew all along. The whole school knew. Okay, Lin Yan rolled her eyes. Only you thought you were truly irresistible. Honestly, for sticking it out for 3 years, Cheng Yi absolutely deserves the Employee of the Year award. Ning Weiyu grabbed the nearest Chanel bag and threw it at Lin Yan, who caught it effortlessly. It's this season's new release. What a shame it would be to break it. Get out. Not a chance. Lin Yan leaned closer to her. Do you know how many girls Cheng Yi has turned down? Just in the psychology department alone, there were 3 department beauties. He stayed true to his professional ethics, but you, on the other hand, really think you're the queen. Ning Weiyu suddenly remembered last Valentine's Day, when she saw that ambiguous text message on Chang Ye's phone. At the time, she had thrown the phone straight into the fountain. Looking back now, it might have been some rejected girl's revenge. He is very popular, obviously. Lin Yan exaggeratedly waved her hands. He's in the top 3 of his grade, a substitute forward on the school basketball team. And with that stoic face of his, if he weren't always following you around like a sidekick, the line of people chasing him would stretch all the way to the school gate. Ning Weiyu felt an inexplicable irritation. She had always thought Cheng Yi was the kind of unwanted bookworm who would have been completely overwhelmed by school life if not for her charity. So what? He's single now, go chase him. I'm not picking up what you've discarded. Lin Yan stood up, giving her a meaningful look, but I bet within a month, you'll regret it. Dream on. After Lin Yan left, Ning Weiyu mechanically hung each bag back in its place. Every handle was tied with a small card handwritten by Cheng Yi, recording the purchase date and occasion. She had never read them carefully. On the card of the oldest LV wallet, it read, "Congratulations on winning the debate, Weiyu. Although I thought the opposing side's arguments were more convincing, your performance was truly brilliant. 2018-11-2. Ning Weiyu frowned. She had no recollection of Cheng Yi ever objecting to her arguments. In her memory, he would only nod and smile, saying, "You're right." A strange feeling crept up her spine. She suddenly realized that she might have never truly known the real Cheng Yi. At 3:17 a.m., Ning Weiyu woke up from a nightmare. In the dream, she was running down an endless corridor. At every turn, she could see Cheng Ye's back, but each time she called his name, the person who turned around was a stranger wearing Cheng Ye's mask. She fumbled to pick up her phone, the glaring light from the screen making her squint. The notification bar was empty, no unread messages, and certainly not that unwavering "good night, see you tomorrow." Ning Weiyu opened the chat window with Cheng Yi. Their last conversation was from yesterday morning, when she had ordered him to meet at the cafe at 2 p.m., and he had replied with a simple "okay." As if possessed, she began scrolling up. Thousands of messages cascaded like a waterfall, almost all of them her one-sided commands and complaints, while Cheng Ye's replies were always concise and respectful. In the records from April 12th, she had sent 17 voice messages complaining about a group assignment. The last one sent at 1:14 a.m., Cheng Yi replied within 2 minutes, "I've contacted your group members. The issue is resolved. Rest early." Ning Weiyu's fingers hovered over the keyboard, suddenly unable to recall how she had managed to solve these troubles in the days without Cheng Yi. Outside the window, the early summer night breeze gently lifted the sheer curtains. Staring at the ceiling, she noticed for the first time a sticky note on the bedroom's air conditioning vent. Cleaning date, 5:15, Cheng. So even such things were taken care of by him. Ning Weiyu rolled out of bed and walked barefoot to the walk-in closet. In the bottom drawer, she found the notebook Cheng Yi had left behind today. Opening the first page, a neat table recorded her basic information. In the taboos column, it read, "Hates being compared, especially to her mother. Hates mint flavor, hates having plans." Disrupted, she casually flipped to a page in the middle, dated on her birthday last year. Unlike the objective records on other pages, the handwriting on this page was slightly messy. Today's budget exceeded, birthday gift plus surprise party, but it was worth it. Ning Weiyu smiled when blowing out the candles, the genuine kind. Note, her eyelashes trembled while making a wish. Beautiful. Ning Weiyu's heart suddenly skipped a beat. She snapped the notebook shut, as if it were some dangerous creature. Back in bed, she stared at the phone screen for a full 10 minutes before finally typing into the chat box, "How often should the air conditioner filter be replaced?" Before sending it, she hesitated. Her thumb hovered over the send button as she suddenly realized this was the first time in 3 years that she had to think about a message she was sending to Cheng Yi. In the end, she deleted the sentence and tossed her phone aside. Outside the window, the eastern sky was already turning pale with the first light of dawn. Ning Weiyu buried her head under the pillow but could no longer fall asleep. Under the ginkgo tree in front of the psychology building, Ning Weiyu adjusted her sunglasses for the third time. The June sunlight, like melted gold, filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on her light-colored dress. She glanced down at her wristwatch, 10:15. According to the class schedule she had hacked into the school system to obtain, Cheng Yi should be getting out of class in 5 minutes. I must be crazy, she muttered under her breath, her fingers unconsciously rubbing the folder in her hand. On this Wednesday morning, she had cancelled her horseback riding lesson and spent 2 hours on her makeup and outfit, all just to bump into a man who had once obeyed her every command. Students began pouring out of the building's entrance. Ning Weiyu quickly took out her cushion compact to touch up her makeup, which wasn't even smudged, then pretended to be in a hurry as she walked forward. At the precisely calculated moment, she, coincidentally, ran into Cheng Yi as he stepped out of the building. Oops, when they were just a meter apart, Ning Weiyu deliberately stumbled, letting the folder in her hand fall to the ground, scattering papers everywhere. Cheng Yi's reaction was much faster than she had anticipated. In a swift stride, he stepped forward, dropping to one knee, his slender fingers already picking up most of the documents. Ning Weiyu felt a familiar surge of satisfaction. See, how could 3 years of habit be changed so easily? Your documents. Cheng Yi stood up, handing her the neatly arranged papers, his face wearing a polite smile she had never seen before. Watch your step. No extra greetings, no concerned inquiries, not even a second glance. As soon as he finished speaking, Cheng Yi turned to leave, as if she were just an ordinary classmate who had accidentally dropped something. Ning Weiyu instinctively grabbed his wrist. Don't you have anything to say to me? Cheng Yi's gaze fell on her hand, and Ning Weiyu suddenly realized how abrupt her action was. She quickly let go, as if she had been burned. You usually have French class at this time on Wednesdays, Cheng Yi said calmly. Skipping class isn't a good habit. Ning Weiyu widened her eyes. He still remembered her schedule. Did that mean professional habit? Cheng Yi said, as if seeing through her thoughts, pointing to his temple, part of memory training. Have a pleasant day. With that, he gave a slight nod and strode purposefully toward the library, his back as straight and unyielding as a bamboo stalk refusing to bend. Ning Weiyu stood rooted to the spot, overwhelmed by a sense of absurdity she had never felt before. In Cheng Yi's eyes, her carefully orchestrated, chance encounter probably seemed as childish and laughable as a child's game of make-believe. Bastard, she muttered through gritted teeth, unsure whether her anger was directed at Cheng Yi or at herself for actually dressing up so meticulously for something like this. The glass door of the school newspaper editorial office reflected Ning Weiyu's hesitant figure. She had already paced back and forth along this corridor 3 times, each time stopping at the entrance only to turn and walk away. If you want to see, just come in. What are you sneaking around for? The door suddenly swung open, and Chen Mo, the editor-in-chief of the school magazine, nearly collided with her. While holding a thick stack of magazines, Ning Weiyu took half a step back, lifting her chin to hide her embarrassment. Who's sneaking around? I'm here to pick up the latest issue of the school magazine. How unusual. Since when has Miss Ning been interested in our little publication? Chen Mo raised an eyebrow but still stepped aside to let her in. The latest issue is on the left shelf, help yourself. The school magazine office was filled with the mixed scent of ink and coffee. Ning Weiyu walked straight to the magazine rack, where the cover of the latest issue prominently displayed the title, The Emotional Service Industry, Professional Companionship and Ethical Boundaries, accompanied by a side-profile photo of Cheng Yi on the lecture stage. Her fingers trembled slightly, almost tearing the cover. Opening the inner pages, she found 2 full spreads dedicated to an exclusive interview with Cheng Yi, complete with a large photo of him leaning against the corridor of the psychology building. In the photo, Cheng Yi wore a simple white shirt and black casual pants, his gaze behind gold-rimmed glasses focused and profound, a stark contrast to the memory of the always meek and submissive figure she remembered. Many people misunderstand emotional companions as high-end flatterers, which is a completely mistaken perception, Cheng Yi explained in the article. Speaking with ease, we are more like emotional trainers, using professional techniques to help clients build healthy relationship awareness. For example, some clients have long been in positions of privilege and lack the ability to empathize. Ning Weiyu snapped the magazine shut. This passage felt like a public execution aimed directly at her. When was this interview conducted? She asked Chen Mo, forcing herself to remain calm. Last week. Chen Mo didn't even look up as he sorted through the manuscripts. Cheng Yi is a big shot our editor-in-chief went through a lot of trouble to book. He's the youngest master's candidate in the psychology department and even published a paper in psychological science last year. Ning Weiyu felt a tightness in her chest. Cheng Yi had published an academic paper, that Cheng Yi who used to help her with homework and never dared to voice his own opinions. Oh, right. Chen Mo suddenly remembered something and pulled a ticket out of his drawer. Cheng Yi is giving a public lecture this Friday on power dynamics in intimate relationships. Do you want to go? It's guaranteed to blow your Mind, Ning Weiyu took the ticket, the gilded letters read, Cheng Yi, hidden control and counter-control in modern intimate relationships, thanks. She stuffed the ticket into her bag and turned to leave. Hey, you haven't paid for the magazine yet, Chen Mo called out from behind. Ning Weiyu waved without looking back. Put it on my tab. Once outside the editorial office, she immediately pulled out her phone and searched for Chang Ye's name. In an instant, over a dozen academic records popped up on the screen, with the top one being a co-authored paper titled Emotional Dependency and Personality Formation in Privileged Environments, a 3-year longitudinal study. Ning Weiyu's breathing grew rapid. 3 years, tracking study. With trembling hands, she clicked open the abstract. Keywords like narcissistic personality tendencies, privileged class, and emotional manipulation stabbed into her eyes like knives. So that's it, she let out a cold laugh. I wasn't just a client, I was also a test subject. In the distance, the clock tower chimed 11 times. Suddenly remembering something, Ning Weiyu quickened her pace toward the library. If she recalled correctly, Cheng Yi would be studying in the psychology section on the 3rd floor of the library every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. The library's air conditioning was set quite low. Hugging her arms, Ning Weiyu weaved through the tall bookshelves. Through the gaps in the Jiro shelves, she spotted Cheng Yi at a glance, sitting by the window. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting striped shadows on him and outlining the focused profile of his face as he read. Ning Weiyu took a deep breath and pretended to casually walk toward the adjacent bookshelf. She randomly pulled out a copy of Introduction to Social Psychology, but her ears were perked up, listening for any movement from Chang Ye's side, the sound of pages turning, the soft scratching of a pen tip against paper, occasional light coughs. These background noises that had surrounded her for 3 years now felt as if they were separated by an invisible wall. She quietly peeked over and saw the cover of the thick book spread open in front of Cheng Yi. Treatment and Intervention for Narcissistic Personality Disorder. Blood rushed to her head in an instant. Ning Weiyu slammed the book in her hands shut, startling several nearby students. Cheng Yi also looked up, his gaze meeting hers through the gap between the bookshelves. For a moment, Ning Weiyu thought he would panic, explain, or at least show a hint of embarrassment, but Cheng Yi merely adjusted his glasses calmly, nodded politely, and then continued reading his book, as if she were just an insignificant passerby. This feeling of being ignored was more infuriating than any humiliation. Ning Weiyu strode over to Chang Ye's desk and slapped her hand down on the book. Interesting reading choice, she said in a low voice, unable to suppress the sharpness in her tone. Conducting follow-up research, are we, Teacher Cheng? Cheng Yi slowly closed the book, his movements annoyingly graceful. Just ordinary academic reference material. Is there a problem? Stop pretending. Ning Weiyu's fingers dug into her palms. That so-called tracking study, I was just your lab rat, wasn't I? For 3 years, you took my father's money while collecting data for your thesis. What a clever scheme. Students nearby were already looking over curiously. Cheng Yi stood up, and from his towering height, Ning Weiyu had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze, a difference in elevation that had never occurred in the past 3 years, as he had always deliberately positioned himself slightly lower than her. Let's talk outside, he suggested in a low voice, his tone carrying an unyielding firmness. The lawn behind the library was empty. Cheng Yi stopped under an oak tree, and when he turned around, his face wore a seriousness Ning Weiyu had never seen before. First, that paper uses completely anonymized data, approved by the ethics committee. His voice was as calm as if he were delivering an academic report. Second, while I did take this job with academic considerations in mind, all services provided strictly adhered to the terms of the contract. Services provided, Ning Weiyu repeated mockingly, including remembering the anniversary of my mother's death, staying up all night when I had a fever, and, her voice suddenly choked, and every time I lost my temper. You always apologized immediately, whether it was my fault or not. Cheng Yi finished her sentence, a bitter smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. Because that was clause 17 of the contract, Party B must unconditionally maintain the emotional stability of Party A's daughter. Ning Weiyu felt a wave of dizziness. She had always thought it was because Cheng Yi had a weak personality, or at least partly because he genuinely cared, so it was all an act. Not entirely. Cheng Yi gazed into the distance. Our profession requires us to maintain a professional distance. But we're only human. He paused, but discussing this now is pointless. Ning Weiyu wanted to say something sharp, hurtful, something that could shatter that damn calm expression on his face, but her throat felt blocked, and not a single word could escape. There's a lecture on Friday, if you're interested. Cheng Yi pulled a ticket from his pocket, identical to the one in her bag, and placed it on the stone bench beside him. It might help you understand some things. His departing Figure cast a long shadow under the midday sun. Ning Weiyu stared at the ticket, suddenly realizing that this was the first time in 3 years that Chang Yi had invited her anywhere. Ning Weiyu stood in the center of the KTV private room, a champagne glass raised high above her head. The light from the crystal chandelier refracted off the glass, casting scattered specks of light on her face. 23 meticulously dressed men and women surrounded her, shouting, "Happy birthday," in unison. Make a wish, Lin Yan cheered beside her, her cheeks flushed from the alcohol. Ning Weiyu closed her eyes. In previous years at this moment, Chang Yi would stand at the outermost edge, quietly holding a camera to record it all. After she blew out the candles, he would be the first to hand her a wet wipe, because she hated getting cream on her fingers. "I hope Hermes releases more limited editions next year," she announced loudly, drawing a round of cheers. When she opened her eyes, her gaze involuntarily swept toward the entrance. Of course, there were only waiters coming and going with fruit platters. "Where's your little follower?" A boy with silver-dyed hair leaned over, handing her a brightly colored cocktail. Wasn't he always the one in charge of taking photos in previous years? Ning Weiyu's smile froze on her face. 3 months had passed, and Chang Yi is no longer Ning Weiyu's lapdog. Had gone from a rumor to a campus consensus, but this silver-haired boy had clearly just returned from studying abroad. Him, Lin Yan cut in first, winking at Ning Weiyu. "He got dumped by our Weiyu. He's probably crying somewhere right now." "Ha!" The crowd erupted in laughter. Ning Weiyu downed her cocktail in one gulp, the liquid burning her throat, yet it couldn't extinguish the inexplicable anger in her heart. The party lasted until 1 in the morning. Ning Weiyu couldn't remember how much she had drunk, only that people kept toasting her, offering insincere compliments. When the last guest finally left, she collapsed onto the sofa, staring at the swirling colored lights on the ceiling, suddenly longing to hear Chang Ye's voice. In her phone contacts, Chang Yi was still at the top of her recent calls. She pressed the dial button, held the phone to her ear, and listened to the long, drawn-out ringing tone. "Hello, this is the psychological support hotline. We are currently outside of working hours." The mechanical female voice left Ning Weiyu stunned. She took the phone away from her ear to check the number. Yes, it was Chang Ye's number, but the prompt tone had changed. Over the past 3 years, no matter how late it was, Chang Ye's phone had always been answered within 3 rings. She refused to give up and dialed again. "Hello, this is Chang Yi," she shouted into the receiver. "I know you're listening. Today is my birthday. How dare you?" Beep, beep. The call was disconnected. Ning Weiyu stared at her phone screen, unable to believe that Chang Yi had actually hung up on her. She dialed again, and this time it went straight to voicemail. "The number you have dialed is temporarily unavailable." She hurled her phone against the wall, and the latest model iPhone split in two with a dull thud. Tears welled up unexpectedly, blurring her vision. This wasn't how she had planned her 23rd birthday. No handwritten card from Chang Yi delivered right at midnight, no hangover medicine he always prepared, not even the familiar figure who would quietly escort her home after every party. "Bastard," she sobbed out the curse, unsure whether she was cursing Chang Yi or the suddenly realized, laughable version of herself. Chang Yi put down his phone and looked at his stunned junior, Su-ro, in the laboratory. "Sorry, did I disturb the experiment?" he asked softly. Su-ro shook her head, her big eyes filled with curiosity. "Was that Ning Weiyu?" Chang Yi didn't answer, just switched his phone to airplane mode and slipped it back into his pocket. Moonlight from outside the window filtered through the blinds, casting striped shadows across his face. "Let's continue. Where were we?" He turned back to the computer screen, which displayed the flowchart of the emotion recognition algorithm designed by Su-ro. "Senior, are you really not going back?" Su-ro asked cautiously. "After all, it's her birthday today. Our contract ended 3 months ago." Chang Ye's voice was as calm as if he were discussing the weather. "Besides," he pointed at the screen, "if we can complete this algorithm before next month's symposium, it will be a big help for your Stanford application." Su-ro bit her lower lip, hesitating to speak. The laboratory fell silent once more, with only the rhythmic tapping of keyboards echoing in the space. 2 hours later, Chang Yi escorted Su-ro back to her dormitory. The streetlights along the campus path stretched their shadows long. At the entrance of the girls' dormitory, Su-ro suddenly turned around. "Senior, I heard Ning Weiyu has been asking about you lately." Chang Yi raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" "Like your speech at the neuroscience forum last week, and," Su-ro's face suddenly flushed, "and whether we're dating." Chang Yi chuckled softly. Campus gossip is always so creative. "So, we're not, right?" Su-ro lowered her head, staring at her canvas shoes. "You're a great research partner, Su-ro," Chang Yi said gently. "Good night." On the way back to his dorm, Chang Ye's phone kept vibrating, all messages from Zhou Yi, accompanied by various photos from Ning Weiyu's birthday party. The last one read, "Bro, are you sure you're not going to pick her up? She looks pretty drunk." Cheng Yi zoomed in on one of the photos. Ning Weiyu was wearing a silver sequin miniskirt, dancing on the coffee table with her skirt fluttering and an exaggerated smile on her face. That kind of smile was all too familiar to him. It never reached her eyes. He deleted all the photos and replied, "None of my business." At the entrance of the dormitory building, a familiar figure made Cheng Yi stop in his tracks. Ning Ziyuan was leaning against a black Mercedes-Benz, dressed in a suit that seemed out of place in the campus environment. "President Ning." Cheng Yi slightly furrowed his brow. "Is there something this late?" Ning Ziyuan straightened up. "It's Xiaoyu's birthday today, I know. She's drunk." At Blue Diamond KTV, Ning Ziyuan handed over a car key. "Go pick her up." Cheng Yi did not take it. "With all due respect, President Ning, our contract has already ended, and," he paused, "are you sure this is good for Weiyu?" The night breeze swept through the space between them. Ning Ziyuan's expression was unreadable under the dim streetlight. "You're right," he finally said, withdrawing the key. "I didn't think it through." Cheng Yi nodded and prepared to leave, but Ning Ziyuan spoke again. "By the way, that contract, the version Xiaoyu saw was a simplified one." Cheng Yi turned around, squinting his eyes. "What do you mean? The full version is in the safe." Ning Ziyuan opened the car door, including the supplementary clause that states, "Within 3 years after the contract termination, Party A's daughter shall not pursue Party B in any form, otherwise a penalty of 1 million yuan shall be paid." Cheng Yi froze in place. Of course, he remembered this clause. At the time, he had dismissed it as Ning Ziyuan's way of protecting his daughter, laughing it off. "Does she know, this afternoon?" Ning Ziyuan got into the car and said meaningfully through the lowered window. Her exact words were, "Just 1 million, I can afford it." The Mercedes-Benz slid silently into the night. Cheng Yi stood under the empty dormitory building, suddenly feeling something in his chest tremble lightly, like a long dormant butterfly trying to break free from its cocoon. Classroom 208 in the business school was packed. Ning Weiyu sat in the corner of the last row, her baseball cap pulled low. This was Cheng Yi's public lecture for the semester, Consumer Psychology, and she had sneaked in. On the podium, Cheng Yi wore a simple white shirt and black casual pants, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing well-defined forearms. He was explaining the scarcity principle, his voice steady and unhurried, occasionally punctuated by humor that drew laughter from the entire room. Ning Weiyu had never seen Cheng Yi like this. Confident, composed, radiant. Over the past 3 years, he had always kept his head slightly lowered in front of her, his voice so soft as if afraid of disturbing something. Looking back now, it was nothing more than the performance of a professional. "Next, let's conduct an experiment." Cheng Yi picked up a stack of papers. "Please have the teaching assistant distribute them." A girl with a ponytail quickly stepped forward to take the papers. Ning Weiyu narrowed her eyes. It was Su Ro, the one rumored to be close to Cheng Yi. She wore simple jeans and a white t-shirt, and when she smiled, a small dimple appeared on her left cheek. Ning Weiyu glanced down at her carefully coordinated Chanel suit and suddenly felt a bit ridiculous. What was she doing here? Trying to prove she was more charming than an undergraduate student. "This survey needs to be completed in pairs." Cheng Yi's voice came through. "Please team up with someone nearby." The classroom immediately grew noisy. Ning Weiyu froze in place. She hadn't expected there to be an interactive segment. Several boys in the front row had already turned around, curiously eyeing this unfamiliar beauty. "Let's team up." A familiar voice sounded beside her ear. Ning Weiyu looked up to find Cheng Yi standing at her desk, holding a survey in his hand. I'm just here to audit the class," she stammered, her heart suddenly racing. "It's fine." Cheng Yi pulled out the chair next to her and sat down, a faint scent of cedarwood wafting from him. "The first part is simple. Write about your most recent impulse purchase." Ning Weiyu took the pen, her fingers trembling slightly. This was the first time Cheng Yi had actively approached her since the contract ended. She stole a glance at his profile and noticed a tiny mole at the corner of his eye, something she had never noticed before. "I'm done," she said, pushing the questionnaire over and accidentally knocking over the water bottle. The liquid quickly spread across the table, flowing toward Cheng Yi's side. "Be careful." Ning Weiyu hurriedly went to wipe it, but was stopped by Cheng Yi midair. "Don't move." He took out a towel from under the lectern and skillfully absorbed the moisture. "This desk is designed with a tilt, so the water flows in my direction." Ning Weiyu was stunned. He even considered such details. "Or perhaps, you knew I would come all along." Cheng Yi didn't deny it. "Just set the wet towel aside." Question 2 on the questionnaire. Analyze the psychological motivations behind impulse buying. Why do you think people pay for things they don't need? Because, Ning Weiyu stared into his eyes, because what you can't have is always tempting. The classroom lights reflected off Cheng Yi's glasses, making it impossible for her to see his expression. Silence stretched between them until Su Ro's voice came from the podium. "Professor Cheng, time's up." Cheng Yi stood up and collected the questionnaire. "Thank you for participating. His tone was polite yet distant, just like how he treated any ordinary student. The bell rang for the end of class, and the students swarmed out. Ning Weiyu remained seated, watching as Chang Yi was surrounded by a few students asking questions. Su Rou stood beside him, naturally taking the teaching materials from his hands. The tacit understanding in their exchanged smiles stung her eyes. Forgot to tell you, a female voice came from behind. Ning Weiyu turned around to see Lin Yan leaning against the doorframe, twirling her car keys. Chang Yi was voted the most popular lecturer this semester. The course selection system was fully booked within 3 minutes of opening. Ning Weiyu sneered. So he's no longer your on-call errand boy. Lin Yan approached, lowering her voice. The campus forum is betting on when the proud Miss Ning will lower herself to chase after him. Ning Weiyu abruptly stood up, her chair scraping a harsh sound across the floor. Several students looked over curiously, including Chang Yi at the lectern. Boring. She lifted her chin, though her voice trembled slightly. I lost interest in him a long time ago. As she walked out of the teaching building, the June sunlight stung her eyes. Ning Weiyu took out her sunglasses and put them on, but froze when the frames touched her cheeks. These were the birthday gift Chang Yi gave her last year, with the temple arms specially adjusted to fit the curve of her face. The phone vibrated in her bag. Ning Weiyu pulled it out and found a multimedia message from an unfamiliar number, a photo of Chang Yi and Su Rou standing in the laboratory, the girl smiling as she fed him a piece of cake. The caption read only one sentence: "Is the 1 million ready?" Ning Weiyu clenched her phone tightly until her knuckles turned white. She suddenly realized she was standing at a crossroads: either turn and walk away, preserving her last shred of pride, or step into a game she was bound to lose, becoming the laughingstock of the entire school. In the distance, Chang Yi and the students walked out of the teaching building, the sunlight casting a golden halo around him. Ning Weiyu took a deep breath and made her choice. As Ning Weiyu revised the appointment information for the third time, her finger hovered over the reason for consultation field. Sunlight streamed through the cafe's floor-to-ceiling windows, reflecting off the tablet screen and making her squint slightly. Emotional dependency tendencies. No, too obvious. She deleted the words she had just typed, biting her lower lip in thought. Academic pressure, sleep disorder. Her phone vibrated, and Lin Yan's name popped up on the screen. Ning Weiyu pressed the reject button. Ever since photos of her auditing Chang Ye's class were exposed on the campus forum last week, every call from this close friend had carried a hint of gossip. The cafe door swung open, and a familiar scent of perfume drifted in. Ning Weiyu instinctively lowered her head, using her long hair to cover the side of her face. She didn't need to look up to know who had entered: Chang Ye's current, rumored girlfriend, Su Rou, with her signature citrus perfume. I'm so nervous. Su Rou's voice came from the booth behind her. It's my first time on TV, and Senior Chang isn't even a little bit flustered. He's been preparing for 2 weeks. Another female voice chimed in. He even tried on 5 different ties. He's just pretending to be calm on the surface. Ning Weiyu tightened her grip on the coffee cup. Chang Yi was going to be on TV. That Chang Yi who was always meek and submissive in front of her. I heard it's because of his paper on ethics in emotional services. Su Rou's voice suddenly dropped to a whisper. Shh, stop talking, he's here. The doorbell rang again. Peeking over the rim of her cup, Ning Weiyu saw Chang Yi walk in wearing a dark gray suit. The well-tailored fabric accentuated his broad shoulders and narrow waist. His hair was meticulously combed, and behind his gold-rimmed glasses, his gaze was sharp and steady. A far cry from the slightly hunched figure she remembered. Senior, over here. Su Rou waved her hand. Chang Yi walked toward the booth, passing by Ning Weiyu and stirring a gentle breeze. The scent of cedarwood and sandalwood brushed past the tip of her nose. It was the perfume she had given him, the one she casually tossed to him on his birthday last year. I've looked over the script. The host might ask about this case. Chang Ye's voice faded into the distance, and Ning Weiyu only caught a few scattered words. Privileged environment, emotional manipulation, 3 years of tracking. Her coffee cup clinked softly against the saucer. 3 years of tracking. Was he talking about her? On the tablet, the reason for consultation field was still empty. Ning Weiyu took a deep breath and quickly typed, intimacy cognitive disorder, accompanied by mild social anxiety. Then she selected the time slot for tomorrow at 3 p.m., the only opening Chang Yi had every Thursday. The moment she pressed the submit button, her heart raced as if it were about to leap out of her chest. This was insane. If she were recognized. Her phone vibrated again, this time with a message from her father. Xiao Yu, is the 1 million ready? Ning Weiyu sneered and replied, get ready to collect the money, Dad. Please fill out this questionnaire, and then we'll begin. Chang Ye's voice was particularly clear in the enclosed consultation room. Ning Weiyu took the tablet, her fingers mechanically sliding across the screen. She had deliberately changed her appearance today. Brown wig, black framed non-prescription glasses, even altering her tone of speech on purpose. Miss Lee, Chang Yi gently reminded her, you need to complete the questionnaire first. Ning Weiyu was startled, only then realizing she had lingered on the same page for too long. Sorry, I got distracted. She deliberately lowered her voice, quickly checking the options. The consultation room was simpler than she had imagined, a beige sofa, a wooden coffee table, and a few abstract watercolor paintings hung on the wall. The only thing that stood out was the lush pothose plant on the windowsill, her favorite plant, which she had once casually mentioned could help relieve anxiety. The reason you chose to seek counseling is, Chang Yi looked at the notes on his tablet, his gaze calm and professional behind his glasses. Ning Weiyu twisted her fingers together and recited the prepared lines. I always struggle to maintain long-term relationships. Whenever someone is kind to me, I push them away. The half-truth made her throat tighten. Chang Yi nodded slightly, not responding immediately. Sunlight leaked through the blinds, casting striped shadows across his face. Ning Weiyu noticed a tiny mole at the corner of his left eye, something she had never noticed before. Can you be more specific? He asked. For example. Ning Weiyu stared at her knees. There was someone who used to be very good to me, attentive in every way, but I always gave him a hard time. Now that he's gone, you actually miss that feeling of being taken care of. No. Ning Weiyu suddenly looked up, then quickly lowered her head again. I mean, not entirely. Chang Yi set down the tablet, crossing his hands on his knees. This gesture reminded Ning Weiyu of their first meeting, when he had sat just like this in her father's office, as quiet as a painting. Miss Lee, do you know why some people hurt those who are good to them? Ning Weiyu shook her head, the unfamiliar touch of the wig brushing against her neck. Because being loved requires more courage than loving. Chang Ye's voice was soft. Acceptance means exposing one's vulnerability, while hurting is a form of defense. Ning Weiyu felt a tightness in her chest. These words seemed to pierce directly into the defenses she had meticulously built, with a terrifying precision. So you're saying, I'm afraid of being seen through. I'm just offering one possibility. Chang Yi smiled. Psychological counseling isn't about giving answers, it's about searching for the questions together. The conversation lasted for 50 minutes. When she left, Ning Weiyu's wig was soaked with sweat, yet a strange sense of relief spread through her chest. Chang Yi escorted her to the door and handed her a business card. If needed, we can schedule another session. My regular consultations are fully booked, but, he paused, for special cases, I keep some flexible time available. Ning Weiyu took the business card, and the moment their fingertips touched, she was certain she saw a flicker of something unusual in Chang Ye's eyes. But he quickly resumed his professional smile, as if it had just been her imagination. On the television, Chang Yi was analyzing a case of emotional dependency. Sitting upright in a suit on the studio's blue sofa, Ning Weiyu curled up on her apartment sofa, hugging her knees as she stared at the screen. Professor Chang, you mentioned that the emotional service industry exists in an ethical gray area, the host asked. Could you elaborate on that? Chang Yi leaned forward slightly, the platinum cufflinks at his sleeves glinting under the studio lights. They were a Christmas gift Ning Weiyu had casually given him last year. At the time, she hadn't even noticed the initials of his name engraved on them. For example, how should one handle it when genuine emotions arise on the part of the service provider? Chang Ye's voice came through the television speakers, low and clear. A contract can regulate behavior, but it's difficult to govern feelings. Ning Weiyu's heart skipped a beat. Have you ever faced such a dilemma yourself? The host pressed keenly. Chang Yi smiled, a composed and unhurried smile that Ning Weiyu had never seen before. Trade secret. A wave of laughter echoed through the studio. The camera cut to the audience, where Ning Weiyu was startled to find Su Ro sitting in the front row, clapping with an expression full of admiration. She grabbed the remote control, about to turn off the TV, but the screen switched to a pre-recorded street interview. Chang Yi, of course, I know him, a girl said excitedly into the microphone. He's amazing. His last lecture even moved me to tears. Our department's youngest lecturer candidate, a bespectacled young man adjusted his glasses, has published 3 SSCI papers. It said even Harvard wanted to recruit him. Ning Weiyu was stunned. Was this Chang Yi? The same Chang Yi who had run across half the city to buy her late-night snacks. The same Chang Yi who would only smile when she splashed coffee on him in public on TV. The host was wrapping up. Thank you, Professor Chang, for unveiling the mysteries of the emotional service industry for us. The doorbell suddenly rang. Ning Weiyu turned off the TV and peered through the peephole to see Lin Yan standing outside, waving a bottle of champagne. Hurry up and open the door, I know you're home. Lin Yan's voice pierced through the door panel. Ning Weiyu reluctantly pulled the door open. Lin Yan swept in like a gust of wind, heading straight for the living room. Have you seen it? Chang Ye's show. Oh my god, I had no idea he was so. Her voice abruptly cut off, her eyes widening as she stared at the TV cabinet. Ning Weiyu followed her gaze, and her blood instantly ran cold. The wig and glasses she had worn today were casually tossed there. Oh, Lin Yan drew out her tone, a mischievous smile spreading across her face. So today's mysterious disappearance was to shut up. Ning Weiyu grabbed a throw pillow and hurled it. Lin Yan nimbly dodged, shaking the champagne bottle. I'm here to celebrate. The campus forum is blowing up. Everyone's betting on when the proud Miss Ning will lower her head. What's there to celebrate? Celebrating that you finally have emotions like a normal human being. Lin Yan expertly popped the cork. 3 years, and this is the first time I've seen you care so much about someone. Even if it's someone who once treated you as a research subject. Foam gushed out, splashing onto the brand new carpet Ning Weiyu had just replaced. She should have been furious, but suddenly she remembered what Cheng Yi had said in the consultation room. Hurt is a form of defense. Lin Yan, she asked softly, was I really that terrible before? Lin Yan paused while pouring the wine. Why ask that all of a sudden? Answer me. The champagne glass reflected the light of the chandelier. Lin Yan sighed. Do you remember that winter in our freshman year, when I went through that breakup? What did you say? Ning Weiyu frowned as she tried to recall. That year, just before Christmas, Lin Yan discovered her boyfriend was cheating and cried all night in the dorm. Why cry over a man? Even my family's driver is better looking than him. Those were your exact words. Lin Yan swirled her glass. The next day, Cheng Yi brought hot chocolate and a blanket, saying you had asked him to. I knew it was a lie at the time, but guess what? I was still grateful. Ning Weiyu felt a tightness in her chest. She had no memory of this incident at all, let alone asking Cheng Yi to deliver anything. The point is, Lin Yan leaned in closer. Cheng Yi was the only one who saw through all your thorns and still wanted to get close. Now that he's done playing, you're just realizing the game is over. Her phone suddenly vibrated, a photo from an unknown number. It showed Cheng Yi and Su Ro in the lab, the girl smiling as she fed him a piece of cake. Ning Weiyu stared at the photo. A strange, stinging sensation spreading from her chest to her fingertips. Who sent this? Lin Yan leaned over to look. Wow, a challenge. Ning Weiyu turned off the screen. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that she has a second consultation appointment tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon, and this time, she has decided to ask the question that has been lingering in her mind for a long time. Chang Ye's apartment door wasn't fully closed. Ning Weiyu stood in the hallway, holding the fake medical record she claimed she had forgotten in the consultation room, while clear voices from inside the room reached her ears. Why are you keeping all this junk? Zhou Yi's voice was filled with disbelief. Movie ticket stubs, candy wrappers, even this old rubber band has turned yellow. Don't touch that. Chang Ye's voice was deeper than usual. It's already sorted. Categories. Zhou Yi's laughter came through. Buddy, don't tell me you've actually fallen for that young lady. It's been 3 years, and you've been treating all this junk she casually tossed your way like treasures. Ning Weiyu's breath caught. She peeked through the crack in the door and saw Cheng Yi squatting on the living room floor, with several neatly arranged storage boxes in front of him. Zhou Yi stood beside him, waving a crumpled piece of paper in his hand. Give it back. Cheng Yi reached out to snatch it. Zhou Yi deftly dodged and read aloud. Cheng Yi, I'm thirsty. Go buy milk tea, iced, 3 parts. Sugar, with, the rest is smudged with coffee stains. He shook his head. What the hell is this? A slave contract. Ning Weiyu recognized it as a note she had casually written during her sophomore year. It was a hot day, and she couldn't be bothered to walk to the milk tea shop. You don't understand. Cheng Yi snatched the note back, carefully smoothing out the wrinkles. These are all data. Zhou Yi waved his hands exaggeratedly. Come on, even I, who studies behavioral science, don't have such a creepy collecting habit. Admit it, you just like her. Cheng Yi silently placed the note back into the box labeled 2019 6-8. Ning Weiyu counted at least 12 such boxes, arranged in chronological order. What does it matter if I like her? Cheng Yi suddenly said, his voice so soft that Ning Weiyu could barely hear it. We're not from the same world. Now she's chasing after you. Zhou Yi slapped his thigh. Even a $1,000,000 penalty couldn't stop her. This morning, the forum was flooded with photos of her secretly watching you. That's just unwillingness to accept it. Cheng Yi closed the box. When she realizes the real me is worthless, with no contract to bind us, no professionalism, just a what? Cheng Yi shook his head without finishing his sentence, then turned and walked toward the kitchen. Ning Weiyu's heart was beating so fast it felt unnatural, and the medical record in her hand had already been crumpled out of shape. She should have left, but as if guided by some unseen force, she pushed the door open. Excuse me. She deliberately raised her voice, pretending she had just arrived. Zhou Yi jumped up as if he had seen a ghost. Cheng Yi poked his head out from the kitchen, his eyes behind his glasses widening instantly. Miss Li, his expression quickly returned to a professional calm, but Ning Weiyu had already caught that fleeting moment of panic. My medical records. She waved the folder in her hand. seemed to have been left in the consultation room. Cheng Yi dried his hands and walked over. The consultation room is locked today. It's fine, no rush. Ning Weiyu interrupted him, her gaze sweeping over the boxes that had been quickly pushed under the coffee table. Sorry to bother you. As she turned to leave, she was certain she heard Zhou Yi muttering under his breath, damn, it's just too similar. The motion sensor lights in the hallway flickered on one by one with her footsteps. Ning Weiyu stepped into the elevator and finally allowed herself to smile. It turned out that all the trash she had casually discarded had been treasured by Cheng Yi like specimens. Beneath his calm and professional mask, he hid the same unease as hers. The elevator doors slowly closed, her phone vibrated, and the campus forum pushed a new topic. Confirmed. Ning Weiyu disguised herself to infiltrate the psychology department, adding more evidence of her pursuit of Cheng Yi. Accompanied by a photo of her entering the counseling building wearing a wig that day, Ning Weiyu turned off her phone and hummed a tune. So what if the whole world was watching her make a fool of herself? She had finally found the right way to play the game. The weather forecast said it would rain tonight, but it didn't say it would be such a downpour. Ning Weiyu stood under the eaves of the psychology department building, the rain slanting down and striking her bare calves, icy and biting. She glanced at her wristwatch, 9:47 p.m. The lights in Cheng Ye's lab were still on, according to the campus forum. He worked until 10 every Wednesday night. Her phone screen lit up with a message from Lin Yen. Are you crazy, waiting outside in this weather? Ning Weiyu didn't reply, just hugged her bag closer to her chest. Inside were printed copies of all the papers Cheng Yi had recently published. It had taken her 3 full days to barely understand them. And then she discovered that each acknowledgement section included the line, thanks to NWY, for providing research inspiration. NWY. Ning Weiyu, rainwater began to overflow the steps, soaking her high heels. These Jimmy Choos were newly bought, a light blue satin, like Cinderella's dancing shoes. Unfortunately, without any magic protection, the water stains had irreversibly ruined them. At 3:10, the side door of the psychology building finally opened. Cheng Yi walked out holding a black umbrella, the cuffs of his white shirt rolled up to his elbows, revealing well-defined forearms. He clearly paused for a moment when he saw Ning Weiyu, his steps halting on the stairs. What are you doing here? His voice was almost drowned out by the sound of the rain. Ning Weiyu lifted her chin, even as rainwater trickled down her neck and into her collar. Just passing by, Cheng Ye's gaze swept over her soaked skirt and trembling fingers, his lips tightening. For a moment, Ning Weiyu thought he would take off his coat and drape it over her shoulders, just as he had done countless times before. The rain won't stop anytime soon, Cheng Yi finally said, handing her his umbrella. Take it. The handle of the black umbrella still held the warmth of his touch. Ning Weiyu didn't take it. Raindrops dripped from her eyelashes like silent tears. Why did you mention me in the acknowledgements? She asked directly, her voice hoarser than she had imagined. In those papers, Cheng Ye's hand hung in midair, raindrops pattering densely against the umbrella surface. Academic norms, he said. You did provide a research scenario, is that all? What else? Cheng Yi retorted. A flash of lightning streaked across the night sky, illuminating his sharply defined profile. Ning Weiyu suddenly noticed something in Cheng Ye's eyes she had never seen before, not the gentleness of the past, nor the distance that came later, but a restraint that bordered on pain. I'm leaving. Cheng Yi took back the umbrella. I'm going to Boston next month, with an offer from Harvard's psychology department. The news hit Ning Weiyu like a punch to the gut. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Rainwater trickled into the corner of her lips, salty and bitter like seawater. Congratulations. She finally managed a smile, the kind of flawless, practiced smile she had perfected at countless parties. Finally free of me. Cheng Yi looked at her, his gaze as deep and heavy as the night rain. Then he turned and walked into the downpour, the black umbrella closing behind him like a curtain falling on a stage. Ning Weiyu stood rooted to the spot, the rain washing away her meticulously applied makeup and her pride. Only when Cheng Ye's figure had completely vanished into the curtain of rain did she allow herself to crouch down and wrap her arms around her trembling knees. So this is what heartbreak feels like. The door to Cheng Ye's office was flung open as Zhou Yi rushed in, drenched from the rain. Are you even human? He threw down a stack of photos. Look. She waited in the rain for 2 hours. The photos showed Ning Weiyu's back as she crouched in front of the psychology building, her soaked white dress clinging to her body like a bird with broken wings. Cheng Ye's fingers left creases at the edges of the photos, but his voice remained steady. She brought this on herself, self-inflicted. Zhou Yi exaggeratedly waved his hands. Brother, I don't get you. You clearly like her, collecting every scrap of paper she's had for 3 years. And now that she's making the first move, why are you acting like a saint? Cheng Yi opened the drawer, took out a document, and pushed it over. Zhou Yi glanced at it, his brow gradually furrowing. Confidentiality agreement. I signed it. Cheng Yi took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Besides providing emotional companionship services, I was also responsible for assessing her psychological state. Ning Ziyuan wanted to know if his daughter was suitable to take over the family business. Zhou Yi whistled. So those observation notes of yours? Part of it is work-related. Cheng Yi looked out the window. The rain had lightened. I can't be sure whether my feelings for her are just a byproduct of long-term role-playing. What about her? Zhou Yi pointed at the photo. She didn't sign any damn agreement. Cheng Yi silently opened his computer and pulled up a surveillance video. In the footage, Ning Weiyu was flipping through files in his office, then took a neatly bound document from her bag and slipped it into his drawer. Last week's surveillance footage. Cheng Yi said. She thought I didn't know. Zhou Yi leaned closer to the screen. What is that? Financial anomaly reports for the Zhang Group over the past 3 years. Cheng Yi's voice carried a subtle softness. I've been studying corporate crime psychology lately. So, she's helping you, using her father's business intelligence network. Cheng Yi closed the video. That will only complicate matters further. Zhou Yi shook his head and slumped on the sofa. I finally understand. You two are both more troublesome than the other. One would rather get drenched in the rain than say a soft word, and the other pretends to be cold and aloof even when deeply moved. Cheng Yi didn't argue. He picked up the photo of Ning Weiyu's back and gently wiped away the water stains on it. Is the Harvard offer real? Zhou Yi suddenly asked. When are you leaving? On the 5th of next month. Zhou Yi stared at the ceiling. Do you think, if she knew you were leaving, would she? It doesn't matter anymore. Cheng Yi locked the photo in the drawer. My contract with the Ning family ended long ago. Outside the window, the last drop of rain fell from the eaves, disappearing silently into the night. A long line stretched out at the psychology department's volunteer recruitment booth. Ning Weiyu stood in the middle of the queue, constantly drawing curious glances. Ever since photos of her waiting for Cheng Yi in the rain were posted on the forum, the campus gossip about her hadn't stopped. Next, the senior student at the registration desk didn't look up. Name, department, and why do you want to join the psychological support volunteer group? Ning Weiyu, business school. She paused. Because, I want to understand people's hearts. The senior student suddenly looked up, her eyes behind her glasses wide open. The surroundings instantly fell silent, then erupted into a wave of whispers. Quiet. A familiar voice came from behind. Cheng Yi walked over holding a stack of materials, with several pens tucked in the pocket of his white lab coat, looking as if he had just come from the laboratory. Professor Cheng, the senior student stammered. This student, I saw it. Cheng Ye's gaze lingered on Ning Weiyu's face for less than a second. The volunteer group has selection criteria. Anyone who meets the requirements can participate. Ning Weiyu bit the soft flesh inside her lower lip. This was their first face-to-face encounter since that rainy night, and Cheng Yi was treating her like any other unfamiliar classmate. Fill out the form. He handed her a sheet, his fingertips not trembling in the slightest. The questions on the form were quite standard, until the final one. Please describe an experience where you helped someone. Ning Weiyu's pen hovered over the paper. She racked her brains but couldn't recall a time when she had selflessly helped anyone. In the end, she wrote, once collected research material someone needed, even though they never knew. When she turned in the form, Cheng Yi had already left. The senior student took the form and said meaningfully, training is on Saturday morning, don't be late. As she walked out of the psychology building, Ning Weiyu noticed the sky was exceptionally blue, as if washed clean by last night's heavy rain. She took a deep breath, pulled out her phone, and cancelled her nail appointment for the day. With training on Saturday, she needed time to prepare. Her phone calendar showed that there were 23 days left until Cheng Yi flew to Boston. Volunteer training was 10 times more difficult than Ning Weiyu had imagined. At 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, 20 volunteers crowded into a small classroom in the psychology building, listening to Su Ro explain basic counseling techniques. Empathy is not sympathy. Su Ro stood in front of the projector, her ponytail swaying gently with her gestures, but rather understanding the other person's feelings by putting yourself in their shoes. Ning Weiyu sat in the last row, trying hard to ignore the probing glances from those around her. She had stayed up late last night finishing the book, Nonviolent Communication, recommended by Cheng Yi, and now her eyelids felt as heavy as if they were filled with lead. Next, practice in pairs. Su Ro clapped her hands. One person plays the role of the seeker, and the other plays the listener. Ning Weiyu was assigned to sit opposite a round-faced girl. The girl timidly began, I don't know what to say. Imagine you have a worry. Ning Weiyu recited mechanically from the book. Any worry will do. All right. The girl twisted her fingers. My boyfriend has been. Stop. Su Ro suddenly appeared at their table. Senior Ning, when listening, lean forward to show you're paying attention. Like this. She demonstrated a posture, then lowered her voice. Teacher Cheng said you can leave early if you're not feeling well. Ning Weiyu's back stiffened. He's here, in the Monitoring room, Su-ro pointed to the camera in the corner of the ceiling. He's in charge of this event. A jolt of electricity shot up her spine to the back of her neck. Ning Weiyu adjusted her posture and flashed her friendliest smile at the round-faced girl. Go on, I'm very interested. After the practice session came the practical assessment. Answering the campus psychological hotline, Ning Weiyu was scheduled last. One by one, those ahead of her went in and came out, some looking grim, others with red-rimmed eyes. Your turn. Su-rong pushed open the door to the consultation room. 15 minutes, there's a supervisor listening in next door. The consultation room was more modest than expected, with only a table and 2 chairs. Next to the phone on the table sat a timer, its red digits ticking down. 1500. The phone rang. Ning Weiyu took a deep breath and picked up the receiver. Hello, this is... I want to drop out. A male voice interrupted her, hoarse as sandpaper. I can't take it anymore. Everyone is better than me. I study until 3 in the morning, and still. Ning Weiyu's fingers tightly gripped the receiver. She had no idea what to say. All the theories from Chang Ye's books in her mind had turned into garbled code. You have worked very hard, she said dryly. Hard work is useless. The other person suddenly raised their voice. My dad said if I fail another subject, he'll cut off my allowance. I'm finished. The timer showed 12:34. Sweat beaded in Ning Weiyu's palms. If it were Chang Yi, how would he respond? She suddenly remembered the way he had looked at her in the counseling room that day, calm and accepting, like the deep sea. Failing a class is scary, she said slowly, but it's nothing compared to the feeling of disappointing yourself, right? There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. How did you know? Just a guess. Ning Weiyu relaxed a little. I often disappoint myself too. The timer jumped to 8:15. The conversation that followed flowed surprisingly smoothly, and the other person even chuckled when she suggested talking to the professor. By the time she hung up, the timer had stopped at 0003, and Ning Weiyu's back was soaked with sweat. The door opened, and Su-ro walked in. The supervising teacher wants to see you. In the next room, Cheng Yi sat in front of the surveillance screen, the lines of his shoulders beneath his white coat noticeably more relaxed. On the table before him lay an evaluation form, the last column of which read, Natural Empathy, Excellent, you performed well, he said, his voice carrying a warmth Ning Weiyu had never heard before. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting a golden dividing line on the floor between them. Ning Weiyu stood at the edge of the light and shadow, suddenly feeling a strong urge to cross that line. Thank you, she said softly. I've learned a lot. Cheng Yi looked up at her, his eyes behind the lenses unfathomable. Why did you become a volunteer? Because, Ning Weiyu mustered her courage, I want to know how you see me, not just as a client, or a research subject. The air in the room seemed to freeze. Cheng Ye's pen left an ink blot on the evaluation form, slowly spreading. It's getting late. He finally stood up. There's training next week. Ning Weiyu didn't move. Boston, when is the flight? The 5th of next month. Cheng Yi paused briefly while organizing the documents. 10 in the morning. I'll see you off. No need. I'll go, Ning Weiyu insisted, her voice firmer than she had imagined. This is my own decision, unrelated to the contract. Cheng Yi finally looked at her, a complex emotion flickering in his gaze, but before he could respond, Su-ro hurriedly pushed the door open. Teacher Cheng, something's wrong, the hotline in Group B is having issues. Cheng Yi immediately strode away, the hem of his white coat stirring a gentle breeze. Ning Weiyu stood in place, watching the ink blot on the evaluation form gradually dry, forming a small, black planet. Ning Weiyu's high heels tapped out a hurried rhythm on the marble floor. The headquarters of the Ning Group was unusually quiet today, with even the receptionist nowhere to be seen. As the elevator ascended directly to the top floor, her phone vibrated again. The 17th unread message from Lin Yen. Pick up the phone, something big has happened. The door to the chairman's office was slightly ajar, and from inside came her father's voice, weary in a way she had never heard before. Save as much as we can. Pushing the door open, Ning Weiyu saw her father slumped in the leather swivel chair, his suit jacket casually thrown on the floor, his tie loosened and hanging around his neck. The desk was piled high with documents, the topmost one stamped with a bright red court seizure order. Dad, Ning Ziyuan looked up, his eyes bloodshot. Xiaoyu, have a seat. Ning Weiyu had never seen her father like this, even at her mother's funeral. He had maintained the perfect image of a business elite. She carefully stepped around the scattered documents and sat down in the visitor's chair, her fingertips touching the cold desktop. The group has encountered some issues. Ning Ziyuan rubbed his temples. The Zhang Group has reported us for financial fraud, and the Securities Regulatory Commission has already initiated an investigation. But our finances are fine, right? Ning Weiyu's voice tightened. Originally, they were. Her father said with a bitter smile, but last week, someone hacked into the financial system and tampered with it. Now all the evidence points to us. Outside the window, the sunlight remained bright, shining on the golden, glittering logo of the Ning Group. Ning Weiyu suddenly remembered Chang Ye's words, emotional dependence and personality formation in a privileged environment. Now that privilege was teetering, she felt a wave of dizziness. How serious is it? Extremely serious, father's voice seemed to come from a faraway place. Assets are frozen, the stock price has plummeted 60%, and the bank loan is due next week. If we can't find a solution, the Ning Group will go bankrupt within a month. Bankruptcy. The word struck Ning Weiyu's chest like a heavy hammer. The gilded cage she had lived in since childhood, those easily accessible limited edition handbags, custom-made high heels, globally limited supercars, all the extravagance built upon the Ning Empire was about to vanish into thin air. What can I do? She heard herself ask. Ning Ziyuan's gaze flickered slightly. Zhang Rui came to see me yesterday. Zhang Rui, the heir of the Zhang Group, a Harvard Business School graduate, a rising star in the financial world, and the mastermind behind the recent report against the Ning family. What does he want? You. Her father looked her straight in the eyes. He proposed a marriage alliance. If we agree, the Zhang Group will withdraw the report and inject funds to save the Ning family. The air conditioning in the office suddenly felt very cold. Ning Weiyu clenched her fists, her newly done crystal nails digging into her palms. This is blackmail. This is business. Ning Ziyuan sighed. Of course, the decision is yours. The phone vibrated again. A notification popped up on the screen. Zhang Rui, heir of the Zhang Group, the new generation business prodigy. In the accompanying photo, Zhang Rui stood in a sharp suit before the Nasdaq screen, a confident, victorious smile gracing his handsome face. Ning Weiyu looked up toward the floor-to-ceiling window of her father's office. From the 38th floor, she could overlook the entire city, the ant-like pedestrians and vehicles, that ordinary world she had never truly understood. I agree, she said. It was late at night when the door to Chang Ye's apartment was knocked. Through the peephole, he saw Ning Ziyuan standing outside. His suit crumpled as if he had aged 10 years overnight. Mr. Ning. Chang Yi opened the door, his brow furrowed. Ning Ziyuan skipped the pleasantries and handed over a tablet directly. I need your help. The screen displayed a series of complex financial charts and email records. Chang Yi quickly scrolled through them, his gaze growing increasingly sharp. The forgery is quite professional, but the pattern is obvious. He pointed to several transaction records. This hedging method doesn't align with Ning Corporation's consistent investment strategy. You can understand this. Ning Ziyuan looked slightly surprised. Chang Yi took off his glasses and wiped them. I earned a dual degree in finance and psychology at Wharton. Didn't you conduct a background check when you hired me as an emotional companion, President Ning? Ning Ziyuan smiled bitterly. Of course I did. I chose you precisely because I saw your business talent. Xiaoyu will eventually take over the group, and she needs a partner who can both make her happy and assist her in business. Chang Yi calmly finished the sentence. Unfortunately, the contract was terminated early. Now the situation has changed. Ning Ziyuan pulled up a photo, Ning Weiyu and Zhang Rui sitting across from each other in a restaurant, with Zhang Rui leaning over to pour her red wine. Xiaoyu has accepted Zhang Rui's marriage proposal. Chang Ye's finger left a fingerprint on the tablet. Under the light, his expression was like a carefully crafted mask, with only the corner of his eye twitching slightly. Congratulations, he said, but what does that have to do with me? Zhang Rui is not a good match. Ning Ziyuan's voice suddenly grew weary. This report was entirely orchestrated by him. What he wants isn't just Xiaoyu, but also Ning Corporation's core technology. Cheng Yi placed the tablet on the coffee table, his movements gentle yet carrying a certain finality. Forgive my bluntness, Mr. Ning, but this isn't my problem. My contract with the Ning family has already ended. 5 million, Ning Ziyuan said. Help me find any trace of evidence that the Zhang family fabricated, and I'll give you 5 million. I don't need money. What about Xiaoyu? Ning Ziyuan looked directly into Chang Ye's eyes. Can you bear to watch her jump into a pit of fire? Cheng Yi turned and walked toward the window. The city lights were bright in the night, and the lights of the Ning Group building in the distance still shone brilliantly, yet they seemed on the verge of collapse. He remembered Ning Weiyu's back as she crouched in the rain, and her words during their first consultation. I always end up hurting those who are good to me. I need all internal personnel communication records and system login logs, he finally said, especially from the IT department. Ning Ziyuan let out a long sigh and took a USB drive from his briefcase. I've been prepared for a while. Cheng Yi took the USB drive, its metal surface icy cold to the touch. Why come to me, Mr. Ning must have a more professional team, because only you understand Xiaoyu. Ning Ziyuan's voice suddenly softened, and only you might be someone she'd listen to. After seeing Ning Ziyuan off, Cheng Yi stood on the balcony and lit a cigarette. He rarely smoked, but tonight he needed a little numbness. His phone screen lit up, and the campus forum automatically pushed a new message, explosive: the Ning family heiress and the Zhang family crown prince's engagement banquet to be held this week. Amidst the swirling smoke, Cheng Yi recalled the expression on Ning Weiyu's face the day their contract ended, when she splashed coffee on him, so proud, so utterly justified. Could she still maintain that pride now? The banquet hall of the Peninsula Hotel was brilliantly lit. Ning Weiyu stood before the full-length mirror in the dressing room, her slender waistline accentuated by a white gown. The diamond necklace around her neck was priceless, yet it felt as heavy as shackles. Smile, bride. Lin Yan leaned against the doorframe, a champagne glass swaying in her hand. The reporters are all outside. Ning Weiyu tried to curl her lips into a smile, but the girl in the mirror revealed only an empty grin. It had been just 72 hours since she agreed to the engagement, yet it felt like an eternity. Zhang Rui's efficiency was terrifyingly high. The press conference, the engagement banquet, even the honeymoon itinerary had all been arranged. Your father looks terrible. Lin Yan handed her a glass of champagne. I've never seen him like this. Ning Weiyu didn't take it. He didn't come home again last night, worked all night at the office. I heard he found some financial genius to help check the accounts. Lin Yan suddenly fell silent, as if she had misspoken. Ning Weiyu turned sharply. Who? I don't know, just said it offhand. Lin Yan avoided her gaze. Let's go, it's time to make our entrance. The doors to the banquet hall slowly opened, and hundreds of eyes turned toward her simultaneously. Zhang Rui stood at the far end, his broad shoulders and narrow waist accentuated by the black tuxedo, a charming smile gracing his handsome face. But Ning Weiyu only noticed the calculation in his eyes, like a snake eyeing its prey. As the music began, she took her father's arm and walked toward Zhang Rui. Camera flashes flickered on both sides of the red carpet, like a silent gunfight. Beautiful bride. Zhang Rui took her hand, his lips lightly brushing the back of it, yet the touch felt as cold as ice. I've finally waited for this day. Ning Weiyu forced herself to smile. Zhang Rui's fingers tightened around her wrist, the grip so strong it nearly left a bruise. It was a warning, a reminder of who was in control. The engagement ceremony was brief yet extravagant. As Zhang Rui slid the 5-carat diamond ring onto her finger, applause erupted throughout the room. Ning Weiyu's gaze swept over the guests, and suddenly, in a corner, she spotted a familiar figure, Cheng Yi, dressed in a waiter's uniform, quietly replacing plates. What was he doing here? Zhang Rui followed her line of sight and chuckled softly. Oh, I hired a professional psychological consultant team to ensure the banquet runs smoothly. Do you know him? Not familiar. Ning Weiyu quickly averted her gaze. He used to work for my family. These lowly types are only fit to be waiters. Zhang Rui whispered in her ear, his warm breath sending a shiver across her skin. Remember your status, Miss Ning. Halfway through the banquet, Ning Weiyu excused herself to touch up her makeup and escape from the main table. In the shadows of the hallway outside the powder room, a figure blocked her path. Cheng Yi. She lowered her voice. What are you doing here? Cheng Yi handed her a plate with a few delicate pastries on it. You haven't eaten anything tonight. This simple gesture made Ning Weiyu's nose sting. Over the past 3 years, Cheng Yi had always been like this, anticipating her needs before she even realized them. Now, when everyone else only cared about her status, her family, and her usefulness, he was the only one who remembered she might be hungry. Thank you. She picked up a pastry but couldn't taste it. Did my father ask you to come? Cheng Yi didn't answer directly. Zhang Rui is not a good choice. I have no choice. Ning Weiyu smiled bitterly. If the Ning family collapses, thousands of employees will lose their jobs. And my father will. Never mind, you wouldn't understand. I understand. Cheng Ye's voice was soft, but you don't have to sacrifice yourself. Ning Weiyu looked up at him. Cheng Ye's eyes were as deep as a well under the dim corridor lights, swirling with emotions she couldn't decipher. At that moment, she suddenly wanted to throw everything aside, rush into the arms of this man who had once been so devoted to her, and cry her heart out. But reality was, she simply straightened her back. This is my decision, just wish me well. From afar came Zhang Rui's call. Xiaoyu, darling, it's time to cut the cake. Cheng Yi took a step back, putting on the waiter's mask once more. Someone's calling you, fiancé. Ning Weiyu wanted to say something, but in the end, she just lifted the hem of her dress and turned to leave. After a few steps, she heard Cheng Yi whisper very softly, just hold on for 3 more days. When she looked back, the hallway was already empty, with only the pastries on the tray proving it wasn't an illusion. Cheng Yi took off his waiter's uniform and changed into his own shirt. In the staff locker room of the Peninsula Hotel, Zhou Yi was frantically typing on his laptop. Found it. Zhou Yi suddenly exclaimed in a low voice, the private email records of Zhang's IT director. Look at this attachment. Cheng Yi leaned over to examine the screen, which displayed an encrypted file titled Ning's Operation Manual, a detailed guide to forging financial statements. Cheng Yi quickly skimmed through the content, a cold smile curling at the corner of his mouth. Zhang Rue is too confident, actually sending something like this through a private email. Can it serve as evidence? Not enough. Cheng Yi shook his head. We need more direct transaction records. Keep investigating all the social media accounts of that IT supervisor. Zhou Yi whistled. You look terrifying when you're serious. For 5 million. Cheng Yi didn't respond. His phone vibrated with a message from Ning Ziyuan. Zhang Rue just accessed all the core technical files of the Ning Corporation. Time is running out. Outside the window, the night was deep. Cheng Yi looked toward the direction of the Peninsula Hotel, where lights were ablaze and laughter filled the air. Ning Weiyu should be cutting the cake now, with Zhang Rue standing behind her, his hand resting on her waist, declaring his sovereignty to everyone. 3 days. He only needed 3 days to find the evidence to turn the tables, but could Ning Weiyu hold on for 3 days? Hey, Zhou Yi interrupted his thoughts. If you really manage to save the Ning family, will you tell Ning Weiyu? Cheng Yi closed his laptop. No. Why? Because she deserves better. Cheng Yi picked up his coat. Someone who doesn't require her to sacrifice her own future. Zhou Yi shook his head disapprovingly. You're being presumptuous. Have you ever asked her what she wants? Cheng Yi didn't answer. The surveillance camera in the hallway quietly rotated, capturing his departing figure. Lonely and resolute, the press conference hall on the first floor of Ning Tower was packed to capacity. Ning Weiyu stood at the side curtain, watching her father speak confidently under the flashing lights. A month ago, this place was shrouded in the shadow of bankruptcy, but now it had become a stage for a declaration of victory. The Securities Regulatory Commission has officially withdrawn all charges against the Ning Group. Ning Ziyuan's voice was steady and powerful. The illegal activities of the Zhang Group will face severe legal punishment. Ning Weiyu's gaze shifted to the corner. Cheng Yi stood leaning against the wall, dressed in a white shirt and black trousers, looking like an ordinary assistant. If it weren't for the constantly fluctuating stock market data on the tablet in his hand, no one would have guessed that this young man was the key strategist behind this turnaround. Mesmerized, Lin Yan appeared beside her at some point, handing over a glass of champagne. Ning Weiyu took the wine glass, her fingertips lightly tapping on the rim. Did my dad invite him? Who? Oh, your former emotional companion. Lin Yan smirked mischievously. No, I invited him. A celebration party can't be complete without the hero, right? Ning Weiyu took a sip of champagne, the bubbles bursting on her tongue with a subtle tang. Since that night in the car when she kissed Cheng Yi on the cheek, they hadn't seen each other again. He had declined all celebration invitations, and if it weren't for Lin Yan's scheming, he probably wouldn't have shown up. Today, after the press conference ended, the guests moved to the banquet hall on the top floor. Ning Weiyu deliberately slowed her pace, waiting for Cheng Yi to approach. Long time no see. She feigned ease. About Harvard. Postponed. Cheng Yi's gaze swept over her deep blue evening gown. You look good. A simple compliment made Ning Weiyu's ears flush. Over the past 3 years, Cheng Yi had given her countless praises, but those were all professional conduct. Now, this simple "you look good" made her heart race more than any flowery words ever could. I have something to say to you. She mustered her courage. After the celebration banquet, can we talk alone? Cheng Yi adjusted his glasses, his eyes behind the lenses revealing no emotion. Of course, the celebration banquet was even more boisterous than expected. The employees of the Ning Group reveled in their survival after the crisis, opening bottle after bottle of champagne. Ning Weiyu dealt with wave after wave of congratulations, but her eyes kept searching for Cheng Yi. He stood by the buffet table, speaking quietly with Zhou Yi, occasionally responding politely to guests who approached him, yet he always seemed like an outsider. By midnight, most of the guests had left. Seizing the opportunity, Ning Weiyu led Cheng Yi to the terrace. The night sky was dotted with stars, and the city lights twinkled beneath their feet. First of all, thank you. She turned to face Cheng Yi, for everything you've done for the Ning family. Cheng Yi leaned against the railing, the night wind tousling his hair. I said, this is repaying a debt. No, it's more than that. Ning Weiyu took a step forward. Thank you for your tolerance over the past 3 years. Thank you for still being willing to help me after the contract ended. Thank you, Weiyu. Cheng Yi interrupted her softly. What are you trying to say? Under the moonlight, his silhouette was clearer than ever. Ning Weiyu took a deep breath, and the memories of the past 3 years flashed through her mind. The way he shielded her from drinking, the way he stayed up late organizing notes for her, his retreating figure in the rain. I like you. The 4 words slipped out, simple beyond belief, not as an employer liking an employee, not as a research subject liking an analyst, just liking you. The balcony suddenly fell into a terrifying silence. Cheng Yi's expression froze, as if he had heard something unbelievable. You know there's a clause in our contract, he finally spoke. No reversal of pursuit, violators to compensate 1 million. Ning Weiyu pulled a check from her handbag. Here, 1 million, to buy the right to pursue you. Cheng Yi didn't take it, he straightened up and suddenly laughed, a kind of unreserved smile that Ning Weiyu had never seen before. Are you sure? He asked. I'm no longer that Cheng Yi who was always at your beck and call, I'll be busy with my own career. I'll have a bad temper, and I might not even remember that you like your coffee with 2 sugars. I remember you like Americano, no sugar. Ning Weiyu interrupted him. You like the color blue, hate cilantro, and unconsciously touch your earlobe when you're reading. Cheng Yi raised an eyebrow. You've been observing me. After 3 years of being together day and night, you must have learned something. Ning Weiyu tucked the check into the pocket on his chest. So, what's the answer? Cheng Ye's hand covered hers, warm and dry. The answer is I can't accept this check. Ning Weiyu's heart sank. Because that clause, Cheng Yi said slowly, expired when the contract ended. He leaned in close, his breath brushing her lips. So you can pursue me for free. Just as Ning Weiyu was about to respond, the terrace door suddenly swung open. Ning Ziyuan stood there, his expression complicated as he looked at their clasped hands. Dad. Ning Weiyu instinctively tried to pull her hand back, but Cheng Yi held it firmly. Mr. Ning. Cheng Yi nodded in greeting. Neither humble nor arrogant, Ning Ziyuan sighed. I knew it would come to this. He took an envelope from his inner suit pocket and handed it to Cheng Yi. Take it, I prepared it long ago. Cheng Yi opened the envelope to find a check inside, with a face value of 1 million. This is, Ning Weiyu widened her eyes, breach of contract penalty. Ning Ziyuan shook his head helplessly. The contract stipulates that if my daughter actively pursues you, I have to compensate you 1 million, remember. Cheng Yi chuckled. That clause was meant to restrain Weiyu, not you. Legally, I'm the party A of the contract. Ning Ziyuan patted Cheng Ye's shoulder. Take it, consider it a bonus. By the way, he turned to his daughter, if your mother were still here, she would definitely like this kid. After Ning Ziyuan left, Ning Weiyu and Cheng Yi looked at each other, then suddenly burst into laughter at the same time. So, Ning Weiyu bit her lower lip. Are we now? Take your time. Cheng Yi gently squeezed her hand. You've just ended a relationship and need time to sort out your true feelings. I know exactly how I feel. Then prove it to me. A challenging glint flashed in Cheng Ye's eyes. Prove that it's not out of gratitude or habit, but that you're truly ready to love someone as an equal. Ning Weiyu wanted to argue but suddenly realized Cheng Yi was right. For the past 23 years, she had never truly lived independently or made decisions on her own. If they rushed into this now, their relationship would only repeat the same old patterns. Okay, she looked up, meeting Cheng Ye's eyes directly. Give me time. Cheng Yi nodded with a smile and released her hand. I'll wait for you. 3 years later, the psychology department graduation ceremony was bustling with people. Ning Weiyu stood at the back of the auditorium, watching Cheng Yi on stage receive his doctoral degree certificate. He had grown more composed than 3 years ago, his black suit accentuating his broad shoulders, making him stand out among the graduates. Over these 3 years, she had moved out of the Ning family mansion and rented a small apartment next to Cheng Ye's. It was her first time paying utility bills, her first time cooking and nearly setting the kitchen on fire, her first time sweating nervously during a job interview. Countless firsts marked her journey of growth, and Cheng Yi always maintained just the right distance. He taught her how to read the electricity meter but wouldn't pay the bill for her. He took her to the hospital when she had food poisoning but refused to cook for her. He helped her revise her business plan but wouldn't use his connections to pave the way for her. Now, let's welcome the doctoral graduate representative, Cheng Yi, to deliver a speech. Amid the applause, Cheng Yi walked toward the podium. Ning Weiyu touched the documents in her handbag, her heart racing. Today, she was finally going to fulfill the promise she made 3 years ago, to prove her growth and sincerity. Finally, I'd like to thank a special person. Cheng Ye's voice echoed through the auditorium via the speakers. She taught me that the most genuine emotions are often hidden beneath the most imperfect appearances. Ning Weiyu's nose tingled with emotion. Over the past 3 years, she had founded an NGO dedicated to providing psychological support to children from wealthy families, using her own experiences to help them break free from the bubble of privilege. Cheng Yi had been her first advisor and her harshest critic. After the ceremony, she waited for Cheng Yi under the cherry blossom tree in front of the psychology building. The June sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on him, just as it had when they first met 3 years ago. Dr. Cheng, she greeted him with a smile. That was a brilliant speech. Cheng Yi placed his graduation cap on her head. Did you like the final part, narcissist? Ning Weiyu took off the hat and handed it back to him. I have something for you. She retrieved a craft paper envelope from her handbag and solemnly passed it to Cheng Yi. He raised an eyebrow and opened it, revealing a meticulously drafted contract, the lifetime companion agreement. The the terms are simple. Ning Weiyu's voice trembled slightly. Party A, Ning Weiyu, and Party B, Cheng Yi, agree to live together and support each other, with a term of a lifetime. Cheng Yi finished her sentence, his eyes shining brightly. No breach of contract clause, no. Ning Weiyu shook her head. This isn't a business contract. Cheng Yi carefully read each clause, the curve of his smile growing wider and wider. Finally, he took out a pen and signed his name with a flourish in the space for Party B. Is it really that simple? Ning Weiyu blinked. No bargaining. Cheng Yi stuffed the contract back into the paper bag and pulled her close. Do you know how long I've been waiting for this moment? 6 years, ever since I first saw you. First time, not at the cafe, no, it was here. Cheng Yi pointed to the cherry blossom tree behind him. It was spring of your freshman year, and you fell asleep under this tree. I passed by and saw the sunlight falling on your face. It was as beautiful as a painting. Ning Weiyu remembered that photo he had set as his screensaver. So you've liked me since back then. Love at first sight. Cheng Yi chuckled softly. You could say that. When President Ning came to me, I could hardly believe my luck. Ning Weiyu's eyes grew warm. 6 years had passed, from a false service to genuine feelings, from inequality to equality. They had finally arrived here. So, she wrapped her arms around Chang Ye's neck. Can I kiss you now, doctor? Chang Ye's answer was a deep kiss, gentle yet firm. Just like him, cherry blossoms drifted down, and in the distance, the cheers of graduating students could be heard. Ning Weiyu closed her eyes, thinking that this must be what happiness felt like, not as a princess held in the palm of someone's hand, but as an equal standing side by side with the one she loved. Not far away, Ning Ziyuan and Zhou Yi turned and left in perfect sync. Did you win the bet? Zhou Yi asked with a grin. Ning Ziyuan pulled out a check. 1 million. I told you they'd be together within 6 years. I should have placed a bet too. Zhou Yi shook his head, but come to think of it, did you choose Cheng Yi back then because he was really suitable for Weiyu? Not entirely. Ning Ziyuan gazed at the distant figures embracing each other. It's also because the way he looks at Xiaoyu is exactly the same as the way I looked at her mother all those years ago. Sunlight spilled into every corner of the campus. Beneath the cherry blossom tree, the lifetime companion agreement lay quietly on the grass, bearing witness to two hearts finally finding their true rhythm with each other. The end.